Okay, I appreciate Kerry last week for taking you through part of the way of Revelation 13. I appreciate him deeply. I love working with him, and I'm glad that I can leave things in his trusting hands. We're going to continue and finish out chapter 13. I'll have a handout for you in just a little bit that I want you to see. But what happened is that we're in the seventh trumpet sound. That was the final trumpet, the final warning. And when the seventh trumpet sounded, in chapter 11, verse 15, here's what happened. This is what the seventh trumpet is all about. Then the seventh angel sounded, and there were loud voices in heaven saying, "The kingdom of the world has become the kingdom of our Lord and of his Christ, and he will reign forever and ever." The kingdom of the world has become what?
Kingdom of our Lord.
The kingdom of our Lord, the Christ. And how long is he going to rule over this kingdom of the world? Forever and ever. Never forget that. He's going to reign. And once all of this has been announced, we hit chapter 12. And chapter 12 gives a brief history. That's the only word I can think of to use for it. Of how Christ and when he began his reign over all the earth. And so he comes back and he says, here's just a few verses that tell us the history of what happened with Jesus. And in chapter 12, the first couple of verses, we see a sign in heaven. There's this woman. She's clothed with the sun. The moon's at her feet. She's got a crown of 12 stars on her head. I'm going to say this again because some people still want to say it's Mary. Mary was not the mother of Israel. She had a crown of 12 stars. So we're talking about this faithful remnant that came all the way through. You go back through and you see how God protected a remnant through Israel. Israel go off into captivity because of their ungodliness. But God always spared this small remnant. And they came all the way through history because it was Jesus that was going to be born out of this remnant. And now there's this picture of this glorious woman. She's with child, about to give birth. It's time for Jesus to be born. And then in verses 3 and 4, there's a great red dragon. And he is great and mighty. He's got 7 heads. He's got 10 horns and 7 diadems on each of those heads. And he is so huge that he knocked a third of the stars from the heavens. They fell to the earth. And he's showing the massiveness of this dragon. And he had one purpose. And what was it? To devour the child. If he could stop Jesus, and that's who the child is. If he could stop Jesus, what would be stopped? Our salvation. Everything that Jesus accomplished for God, he could stop it right there. So he had one goal, was to devour the child. And you look at the massiveness of this great red dragon. And that's why he's using these pictures to try to show the enormity. What would a baby have? What chance would they have at this time and point before such a monster? Not very much. Not very much. But if he could stop Jesus, he could stop ruling the world. He could stop ruling with a rod of iron. So the child, what happened? The child was taken up to God and on the throne. Satan didn't get him. We know who the dragon is. That is Satan. Okay? We'll bring that up in just a second again. As a result of the birth of the child, of Jesus, it pictures the woman fleeing to the wilderness, to a place that God has prepared to nourish her, to do that. You're talking probably, and I'm going to throw this out at you, in Acts chapter 3, in verse 22 and 23, Peter is telling the Jews that, and he's quoting from Moses, that there would be a prophet born among them, and that you better give heed to everything he says or you'll be destroyed. That's what we're talking about. And so Jesus comes, he's murdered, he's killed. After he raises from the dead, he's caught up to the throne. We're talking about there in Acts, right after Jesus ascends to heaven. And so we find out that this great red dragon did not get the child. He's the devil. What's the term devil mean? Accuser. He's Satan. What's Satan mean? Satan's an adversary. So he's an accuser, he's an adversary. He says in chapter 12, verse 9, he tells that, well, I'll just read it. And a great dragon was thrown down, the serpent of old, who is called the devil and Satan, who deceives the whole world. His work is a deceiver. He deceives the world. Now there was no place, since he did not get Jesus. There begins a war in heaven. We wouldn't know about this if John hadn't seen it and wrote it down. There was a war. And it was between Michael and his angels against the devil and his angels. Who won? Michael. So what happened to the devil? He was thrown out of heaven. And I want you to go back. You need to, if you didn't get it, you need to watch the teaching, the video, that why the devil was in heaven. Oftentimes in the Old Testament, and I went through all the verses, some of the verses, that he would appear before God. But this is before Jesus has died. And he would accuse people before God. How in the world can you forgive anybody? There's not been a substitute. There's not been a price paid for their sins. God was just waiting one day. That when Jesus died, he was taken and put at the right hand of God. Now, there is the payment for all the sins. There is no reason for you to have any access to me to accuse brethren before me. Kick him out.
All these angels.
Yeah, yes, all the way down to the earth. Get him to the earth, and we're going to lead him right there. Well, in chapter 12, verse 12, listen to the proclamation when the devil comes to the earth. For this reason, rejoice, O heavens, and you who dwell in them. What's heaven going to do? What's a result of Jesus taking his place on the throne? Oh, rejoice. There is now no longer going to be an accuser before God. But look at the middle of verse 12. Woe to the earth and the sea, because the devil has come down to you, having great wrath, knowing that he has only a short time. Notice, woe to the earth and the sea, because we're picking that up in chapter 13. Okay? So, there's going to be a devil, and there's going to be great wrath on his side. It's going to be the earth. It's going to be involved in the sea. And so he turns immediately. And this dragon, the devil, goes after this woman, faithful Israel. We're talking again in the early part of Acts. When the apostles came and they preached the gospel, and the Jews were converted, You know what? The Jews were in good favor even after they had heard the gospel and had been baptized into Christ. They had great favor because you know where they were going to worship? At the temple. The Jews weren't doing anything to them. And so here these people are in Christ and they're coming to worship God and Christ, and the people of the temple allowed them to do it. They went to the portico of Solomon. That's in Acts. So you can see how they were protected. And God allowed them to find favor in all of that. Well, continue on. Look down at verse 17, chapter 12. So the dragon was enraged with the woman, went off to make war with the rest of her children, who keep the commandments of God and who hold to the testimony of Jesus. Who is the dragon after? The rest of the children, her children. Who would that be?
Remnant.
It'd be the Gentile. Yeah, keep it in mind. I'm trying to keep it in mind for you. He wanted to devour the child, Jesus. Did he get it? No. He wanted to persecute the woman. God helped her. Did he get that? No. That's only one other group left. Anyone tied to Christ, that would be your preaching to the Gentile world and opening up salvation to all of them. And he says it's the ones, he says here, who keep the commandments of God and hold to the testimony of Jesus. Oh, he is enraged. And he can't believe that. Well, how do you think to make war with the rest? How do you think he's going to accomplish this? This is what chapter 13 begins with, to explain. And we're not going to read it all because Carrie, as I said, went through it last week. I just want to highlight a few things and we'll finish out the chapter. Verse 1. And the dragon, that being who? Satan. The dragon stood on the sand of the seashore. Then I saw a beast coming up out of the sea, having 10 horns and 7 heads, and on his horns were 10 diadems, and on his heads were blasphemous names. What comes up out of the sea? Let's don't all jump in there. Yeah, it's a beast. A beast. What does he resemble? The dragon. The only difference between the beast and the dragon or the beast has 10 horns and 10 diadems. Whereas the dragon had 7 heads, 10 horns, and 7 diadems. So these earthly crowns are on the horns. That's going to come up to play in chapter 17. And he had blasphemous names. Whoever, and we call him the sea beast, so we can distinguish. Woe to the earth and the sea. Sea beast comes up. Blasphemous names. Looks a whole lot like the devil. Look down at verse 5. There was given to him, that's the sea beast, there was given to him a mouth speaking arrogant words and blasphemies, and authority to act for 42 months was given to him. What was he given? A mouth. He was a mouth. He's got this mouth. And guess what he starts doing? Arrogant, blaspheming. He's going to act for the same 42 months that have been through all the rest of the earlier chapters. So he's going to do this. Verse 6. And he opened his mouth in blasphemies against God. Wonder why he'd do that. He's angry. He's lost his place. He's lost the power. And so he's blaspheming against God, to blaspheme his name, And his tabernacle, that is those who dwell in heaven. So guess who he's cursing against? Anything that's in heaven. This sea beast, he knows what's going on, and there's a reason. Verse 7. It was also given to him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. And authority over every tribe and people and tongue and nation was given to him. Now, keep in mind that word given. What does that tell you? Yeah. Somebody in authority over him is allowing it to happen. So he was given this, but you know what he was given to make war against? The saints. The saints. And then there in verse 7, what else has he been given?
Every tribe and people.
Authority over every tribe, people, tongue, nation. It was given to him. What does that tell you? We get a hint of who this sea beast is. A what? A ruler. Now, he hadn't told us that. 17, it's going to become real plain who he is. But this sea beast is some kind of ruler because he's over all of these people. Verse 8. All who dwell on the earth will worship him. Everyone whose name has not been written from the foundation of the world in the book of life of the Lamb who's been slain. And what does the earth do? They worship him. If your name was not recorded in the book of life from the foundation of the world, you're going to go this way because you don't care too much about things God. And so they're going to worship him. If you remember back in verse 3, he talks about this sea beast. There was one of his heads that was fatal. It was killed. And what did it do? It came back to life. And the earth, the people of the earth are looking at him, and they're seeing this head's come back to life that was killed, and they're astonished. We can't take him down. We can't do anything about him. And so guess what they began to do? Worship him. We don't have any power over him. He's mighty. He's great. And so he's after the ones who are saints, who worship the Lord Jesus. That's who he is going after. Okay, keep going. Verse 9. If anyone has an ear, let him hear. You better be listening. That's what he's letting them know. Verse 10. If anyone is destined for captivity, to captivity he goes. If anyone kills with the sword he must be killed. Well, that's the proclamation. This is what's going to happen. Look at the end of verse 10. Here is the perseverance and the faith of the saints. What in the world is the only thing that's going to keep God's people on track? They've got to persevere. And why would you persevere? Faith. Faith. That's why your faith, my faith, is so precious. Because when things get difficult, it is the only thing that will keep you tied to God. While everything else is going to be tied where? To the devil. Well, the saints, they're going to suffer loss. I mean, people don't realize how difficult it is for the people of God, especially back here. We don't so much realize it today because we're not being persecuted like this. But they are. One quick look with me back to chapter 6. In chapter 6, verse 9, when the sixth seal was opened, or the fifth seal, excuse me. When the fifth seal was opened, look at verse 11. And there was given to each one, this is what he saw under the altar in heaven before God. And there was given to each of them a white robe. And they were told that they should rest for a little while longer until the number of their fellow servants and their brethren who were to be killed, even as they had been, would be completed. What's going to happen?
Going to be killed.
There's going to be other brethren that were going to have to lose their life before this thing's completed. And so, that's what he says back here in 13:12, is that here's the perseverance and the faith of the saints. You better hold on to Jesus, because it's all you've got. Let him explain more. Continue on, verse 11. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. Now there's a second beast. We'll call him the land beast, okay? So you can distinguish between the sea beast, who's an authoritative of some type, and now there's a land beast. Woe to the earth and the sea that he pronounced, okay? What did this land beast have? It had two horns like what? Oh, like a lamb. Nice and innocent, cuddly. You know, that's what we think of a little lamb, don't we? Yeah. But what gives him away? He spoke as a dragon. Guess what he sounds like? This little innocent lamb. But he speaks as a dragon, the devil. He's going to be speaking as that. Now, you know, this is interesting. When Jesus was teaching on earth, back in Matthew chapter 12 or 7, verse 15, Jesus says, "Beware of false prophets who come to you in sheep's clothing, but inwardly are ravenous wolves." Does Jesus know? Oh yeah, he knew. And so, here's this little lamb, but his mouth, he's got a mouth like a dragon. Look at verse 12. He, this land beast, this earth beast, he exercises all the authority of the first beast in his presence. What does this land beast do? He exercises authority of the first beast, the sea beast. And the sea beast is over all man. And he's bad-mouthing heaven and all who dwell there. So now this land beast is exercising authority of the sea beast. Look at the middle of verse 12. And he makes the earth and those who dwell on it, in it, to worship the first beast whose fatal wound was healed. What's his purpose? What's that earth beast, that land beast? What's his purpose? He wants people of the earth to what? Worship this first beast that came up. That's what he's after. Verse 14. And he deceives those who dwell on the earth because of the science which was given to him to perform in the presence of the beast, telling those who dwell on the earth to make an image to the beast who had the wound of the sword and has come to life. So what does he immediately do?
He deceived those who dwell on the
He's
earth.
starting to deceive those on earth. And so what was given to him? This is the land beast, that earth beast. Authority to perform miracle signs, in the presence of the first beast. Now, I want to tell you something, and I've said it before, taught it here before. People think that they see a miracle, hear it all the time. Something happened, that's a miracle. Hey, not all miracles came from God. Here's a land beast, an earth beast, and he performed signs in the presence of the first beast. And he's doing it because he said, you see this first beast here, that sea beast? You can't kill it. Because he had a fatal head die and it's come back to life. That put some fear in you? Continue on. Verse 15. And it was given to him to give breath to the image of the beast, so that the image of the beast would even speak, and cause as many as do not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Now what does he do?
Well, if you don't worship the beast, you'll be killed.
If you don't worship the beast, you'll be killed. And he gave breath. They told him, make an image to that first beast. We'll make an image. We give him breath. And if you don't fall down and worship him, you're going to be killed. Now, what's it going to take for the saint to persevere? Faith. Faith. Terry, if you want to go ahead and start handing out the papers, and Gail, if you don't mind, they're going to hand out some papers. We're going to be dealing with it just a few moments. But we'll keep going while they're handing it out. Look at verse 16. And he causes all, the small and the great, and the rich and the poor, and the free men and the slaves, to be given a mark on their right hand or on their forehead. And he provides that no one will be able to buy or sell except the one who has the mark, either the name of the beast or the number of his name. It doesn't matter what your lot in life is, what is going to be done to everyone. There's going to be given a mark. It's going to be on your forehead, your right hand, and this mark that's given, what would it do if you have the mark?
And you can go on and buy and sell.
If you have it, though.
If you have it. But if you don't, you can't.
That's the point. She said if you don't have it, you cannot buy or sell. I mean, notice what the devil is doing. He uses this fellow who has some authority, who has another fellow under him that's pointing all the earth. This is the great one. You got to receive a mark. And if you don't get a mark, you can't buy, you can't sell. What predicament would that put the saints in?
You're going to die because you can't eat or drink.
You're going to die. And if you can't buy or sell, what about your little babies that you can't get any food for? Where would the temptation be?
Temptation would be to take the mark.
Get the mark. Hey, we don't have to pay attention to that. Let's just get the mark so we can buy and we can sell. Because otherwise we're going to starve to death. And by the way, we can act like we don't have to believe in it. We don't have to worship that image. But it'll keep us from being killed. That's the way man thinks. But people think that way. They're not the people of God. They're not the people of God. And so here we're finding out, here's this beast that he's trying to perform these signs in the presence of the sea beast, this one who has authority over nations and tribes. And he's trying to get people to see, he can't be killed, you can't destroy him. And it looks pretty bad for the people of God. And then he was given the power that they could overthrow the saints on earth and make war and kill them. Everything is being controlled by God, but it looks almost impossible, doesn't it? So you have to have a mark. That's the only thing going to save you in time and society. A mark. Well, let's see what this is. Verse 18. Here is wisdom. Let him who has understanding calculate the number of the beast. For the number is that of a man, and his number is 666. Pay close attention. Here's wisdom. He's telling. Here's wisdom. Can the people back in this day and time know who this beast is? Now, we're going to get him in chapter 17. But could they know? Listen to everybody running around today. 666. Oh, you don't want to get to my... everybody's hollering. 666. Nobody is reading to what he says. And he uses one word. Let him who has understanding, what? Calculate. Some versions say count. You know what you can do? You can calculate who we're talking about. You can count, and his number is the number of what? It's the number of the beast, but he's what? That of a man. We've got another insight to who he is. It is a man. And you can calculate the number of his name. Now, that's foreign to us. It's not foreign to them. Carrie brought up last week that when Pompeii was destroyed by a volcano, they found in the ruins on the wall, it said, I love the one whose number is 545. He didn't write her name. Guess what he wrote? Her number. And her number was 545. Now, I didn't get left with the paper, but I'm going to talk to you about it as you've got it. On your left side, and by the way, this isn't the whole thing you'll be given when we hit 17. I'm going to give more to add on to what you've got there. On the left side is the Greek alphabet. The Greek alphabet pertains to a number, a power. We have the same thing in English. If people would care to just look it up sometimes in front of an English dictionary, you'll see our alphabet, and then it corresponds to a power, to a number. Same thing. So if I wanted to use Brent, I just go to the English language, English alphabet. Each letter, it means this. I could calculate the number of my name. You can do the same thing. Well, in the Greek, it's the same way. Each Greek letter corresponds to a power, a number. And so I put it below, it's below it first. You see the name Jesus? Well, I've got his Greek name. That's his name in the Greek. All you got to do is find each corresponding letter, write the number, and you'll get the number of Jesus. Anybody know what that would be? Or maybe you calculated it? Somebody find it?
666.
Jesus. Yeah, I hope Jesus isn't 666. His number comes out to 888. That's the number of Jesus. Now, right above that, there's another name, and we'll deal with this, like I said, in chapter 17 in more detail. There's another name. the name Domitian. What they would do on the coins, they would put, and it wasn't just Domitian. That wasn't what he went by. All the emperors of Rome went by an imperial name. And the imperial name is what they would have on all their transcripts, on their coins, any kind of government document. They would use the imperial name. That's his imperial name as appeared on coins and documents. And guess what it comes out to? 666. Fellow by the name of Domitian. And so you know what? When they could calculate, here's his imperial name, calculate the number. And it came out 666. Yes, sir.
So how come, I know you keep saying don't focus on numbers and exact details, but how come, like we hear satanic references are related to 666, Christianity references are 777, but yet you just said Jesus' number is 888.
Right.
Well, where's the 777 come from?
Seven is perfection.
It's what?
Perfection.
Okay.
That's what it stood for the Jew. Okay? That's what it stood for the Jew. But this number 666, you can calculate the name. Carrie and I both went through this in detail. And Carrie even did something that I never could find. He found the coin of Domitian. And his imperial name is on it. Now, some people have come as far as to say back here, and we're going to get into these again, chapter 17. Some people come to say it's Nero. Nero was the fellow. But you're going to come to find out Nero was the head that was slain. Because for Nero to come out to be 666 in his imperial name, you have to add a letter. So it didn't come out exactly. That's what people don't realize. But that fellow Domitian, he's not there yet. But he tells them, here's wisdom. You want to calculate who he is? This fellow's going to make you have a mark. And that mark's going to equal 666. And you got to have it on your forehead or your right hand. That's not literal. It's just an idea. Some way, somehow they had it. But I want you to tell you this morning as we end up class, there's no reason to fear 666. You know, today, we had some neighbors down the street from us, and their house fell 666 in the street. They had it changed. Oh, that's the mark of the beast. Can't have it. It doesn't mean anything. Some people had credit cards. Got 666 on the credit card. Yeah. That's the mark of the beast, you know. Everybody's hollering the mark of the beast. It's the beast. This is the beast. This land beast makes everybody worship the sea beast. He's an authoritative person. And if they don't worship him, they die. Now they have to have the mark to either buy or sell. And that's what that mark is all about. And most people never read this stuff to see. It's the number of a man. That's what it is. And because we lack that, you think they would know exactly what it was? You think they would know back here? Of course they would. Calculating numbers of names was something that was done, it seems like, through history on a regular basis. So what do you think? You're going to have to speak way up, Roger.
I said it's like a symbolic sign of what they are and who they are. Just like the Bible talks about, we should know each other by our fruits. Actions is what we do. Well, the number is pretty much a symbolic form
Well, if I could add though, this isn't symbolic. This is his number. And you can find out who it is. Exactly who it is.
Does that have anything to do with the phrase we use, I've got your number?
That's a good point, yeah. Yeah. The phrase that comes, I got your number, you know. But you can see, this thing isn't mysterious. It's not a hidden code. We find out what happened to the devil and, you know, and find out how he lost. He's lost 3 times. And now his last shot at getting anybody tied to God is going to come through the earth, and he's going to be a ruler. That's his last opportunity, because he's a 3-time loser. And he knows he only has a short time. And he's got to get this thing done. And by the way, when was this all going to happen? It was going to happen soon in their time. Not ours. Their time. So, if you have a question, please come talk to me. You know, but I hope we gathered that. Next week we'll go right on into 14. And I thank you very much.